Good morning, everyone. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here's Rory with the announcements.
Good morning, St. Johnsbury Academy. Today is Friday, November 18th, and it is a green day. The Giving Tree tags are here. Stop by the bulletin board in the first floor of Ranger Breezeway to take a tag. Purchase one of the gifts on the wish list and return the unwrapped gift to Colby 303 by Friday, December 2nd. Gifts range from $10 to $25 and are for people in our local community. If you have any questions, find Ms. Scavito. Thanks for your generosity. A reminder to students going to see Clue tonight. Please be sure to get your tickets online or have cash to pay at the door. Tickets can be purchased on the Catamount Arts website. What better ways to prepare for the holiday season than spending time making cards for friends, families, and anyone else in need for a little holiday joy? Come to the Intaglio Society Club on Wednesdays after the Thanksgiving break and enjoy hot chocolate while making holiday cards. Happy birthday today to Kaylin Carrier, and a happy birthday to all who will be celebrating over the Thanksgiving break. Happy birthday. Tonight we have Clue right here in Fuller Hall at 7. But that's all, so I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving break.
Thank you, Rory. I have a late announcement. Congratulations to the following varsity field hockey players. First team, Marin Giese and Ruby Rolfe. Second team, Esme Kimber and Alexandra Mosier. An honorable mention, Hannah McDonald and Ella Blanchard. An additional congratulations to Esme Kimber and Alexandra Mosier, who played in the Rising Start game last weekend. This is a new game to showcase the rising talent in Vermont. Congratulations, guys. Well done. So we do have a special guest today, but I don't know, is this really bugging us? No? Okay, good. So I am honestly grateful that we're about to have a few days of rest. Resting for me often includes making pie or baking bread and reading and finding the funniest things I can find and sharing them with the people that I know who also appreciate them, including my kids. Not surprisingly, the things that I find funny can be very nerdy, and here is one of those. 200 years or so ago, when the town of St. Johnsbury was just being settled, around Thanksgiving, something called a turkey drive would happen all over Vermont. This involved the overland strolling of flocks of turkeys for hundreds of miles to their holiday demise in Boston. This wasn't just a few turkeys, there were sometimes thousands in each trip. One of the largest drives ever in 1824 involved 10,000 turkeys. Farmers walked them even all the way from northern Vermont and the Canadian border, right where we are, by various routes to Massachusetts. Let's just take a moment to imagine 10,000 turkeys strolling down the Connecticut River. The farmers' children would scatter cracked corn on the path to coax the turkeys along, and in 1824 the roads were not very good, and sometimes they were just paths, and sometimes they just went across fields. And it was a primitive trip, it was a challenging trip, and really not an ideal way to transport turkeys. Progress was just about 10 to 12 miles a day, and farmers lost a lot of turkeys along the way. Maybe 10% of them were drowned in the river, or taken by foxes, or died of natural causes, like wandering mysteriously into a pot in a farm family's kitchen. The habits of turkeys themselves presented challenges. It turns out that wherever turkeys are when the sun sets, that's where turkeys will perch for the night. And if you've seen them, you know that turkeys are not light. Their collective weight can actually shatter a tree. Occasionally, they would end up perching on a farmer's shed or barn, and the building would just collapse. In fact, one year right here in Burke, turkeys roosting on the local schoolhouse collapsed it completely. So another fact about turkeys, even the illusion of darkness and dusk prompts the turkeys to roost and go to sleep. So in the 19th century, there were many more covered bridges on the route from here to Boston, and going through dim covered bridges caused the turkeys to drop off. So the drovers would have to go in there and pick them up and carry them out back into the sun, where they'd perk up again and head on their way. So this whole enterprise ended with the advent of railroads and steamboats, but in its time, this must have been pretty hilarious. So I invite you to picture that and enjoy that image as you enjoy your Thanksgiving food, if you are not a vegetarian like myself. Okay, I'm delighted to invite one of your wonderful faculty members, teachers, someone you requested to hear from, Catherine Lemieux.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mrs. Lemieux, like Dr. Howell just said. And before I begin, is okay? We hear okay? All right. Before I begin, I do want to take a moment to recognize the collective pain that our community is experiencing right now, and that I wrote this talk before Shawnee passed. And when I was reading over the words that I had written, I was struck by how poignant they still were, and how the message that I had crafted before we learned of Shawnee's passing encapsulated her love very perfectly, and the love that she shared so intensely for the community and the people in it. And so I hope that my reflections today and the story that I have to share with you today about this community and how deeply it has impacted me, and also how deeply I hope it impacts you, can also serve as a reminder of Shawnee's endless love. So a couple of weekends ago, I traveled down to Assumption University to watch a former student and football player here, Jake Heedy, play in his senior day football game. And on the drive home, I was reflecting with my husband, Lincoln, who was Jake's high school quarterback coach, about how significant this moment felt for both of us. Here we were feeling immense pride for the person that Jake had grown into. Before the game started, as he and his teammates were going into the locker room for one final pregame pep talk, he broke away from the line and ran over to Lincoln and me and gave us a big hug. And I felt this wave of emotions in that moment, largely because I'm far too competitive for my own good, and they are about to play in the biggest game of the season, but also because I remember when Jake was a freshman in high school, and I wish I could go back and tell him that all of the things that he worried about ended up being okay, and that he would make his family, his community, me, Lincoln, everybody proud beyond words, and not just for his success in football, but for the genuinely good person that he has become. This is my 8th year teaching, and on that drive home from Assumption, Lincoln and I began running through the list of students who are now graduated that we continue to stay in touch with, and who without our lives would not nearly be as full of happiness and love as it is. These former students and athletes and dorm kids, they're starting their own businesses, they're designing their own clothing lines, they're graduating with master's degrees, moving to new cities, some are even getting married and having children, which makes me feel much older than I think I am, but there's that. And yet, when they were high school students, we didn't get the best version of them. I rarely got the best version of who they were. I had to hold them accountable for decisions that they made, while also holding space for them to process the choices and repair any damage that they had done. And I know that many of my high school teachers, many of whom are sitting in chapel right now, rarely got the best version of me. During high school, my parents got divorced. I actively prioritized relationships and friendships over schoolwork. And as Mr. Ian will be the first to remind me, I never stopped talking, especially when I wasn't supposed to be. And I made mistakes, and yet I was constantly met with forgiveness and compassion and understanding from the adults around me. I can still remember Mrs. McKenzie offering me a full-size Kit Kat bar. I went into conference period sobbing one day, who knows why, and she walked over to her desk and pulled out a full-size Kit Kat bar. No words were exchanged, and that was that. I remember writing a handful of letters to my teachers when I graduated, and I can't remember, what I said, but I do remember I told Mrs. Callanan that her good morning greetings, which have continued to this day every single morning, meant more than that simple gesture may suggest. And in hindsight, I can see that those moments, along with 100 other ones, were what shaped who I was going to become. And I promise there's a point. I know that sometimes being asked to take your headphones out or put your phones away seems really punitive and unnecessary, especially when coming from an adult. But the days when I walk down the hallway and we're looking each other in the eye and we're saying good morning, we're saying hi, those are the moments. Like, it's not in my classroom where those moments, the defining moments of having a good day or not, happen. It's in those interactions. And when you have headphones in, it's really difficult to have those. they are the moments that determine whether or not our community feels connected. And I loved how Chef Hale said it, that when you're asked to put your phone away, you should feel this little tug at your heart. Like, what opportunity for connection was missed? And you have to remember that the adults here are working with teenagers voluntarily. Don't take that lightly. They want to know you and they want to connect with you. They want to know how your game went. They want to know what book you're reading. They want to know why you're frustrating. And as an adult, I've been lucky enough to take a group of students to Spain, celebrate a field hockey championship with my team, and even have some former students attend my wedding. But those big moments weren't possible without the willingness of the students to connect with me. Over the time that I've been a student and a teacher here, our community has experienced immeasurable loss many times, and this pain is raw today and will continue to be with the loss of Shandi. And Shandi was that adult who students could go to, but she was also a support for countless adults here too. And the losses of teachers and students throughout these years have left irreplaceable holes in our lives and in our hearts. And what I've experienced through all of these times as a community is that even in the darkest places, when we're there still continues to be space for love and hope and a shared community, and that it is truly an infinite space. After having a daughter a year and a half ago, this has become even more clear to me that there is no limit to how much love a single person can hold in their heart. And so I encourage you to hear, if you hear anything today, is that there's room for you at our community table. We will continue to build a space for you, and I ask that you continue to build space for each other too, especially this week. And I don't have a big takeaway message for you today, but I do hope that you've heard that I want you to feel seen and feel known, and so do the vast majority of adults here. I was not a standout athlete or student in high school, and as much as I love celebrating the wins of our students, you all deserve to feel celebrated. Some mornings, the biggest accomplishment of my day was coming to school and being surrounded by a community that loved me. It wasn't every single one of my teachers or every single day, but the way this community allowed me to exist how I was in that moment and the love that permeates through the bones of this school was truly life-altering. It was the reason I came back to teach here. Shandi chose to work here for the same reasons, and the bright light that she created will continue to illuminate my path as a teacher. And most importantly, if you don't have an adult who makes you feel that way, my classroom is Colby 302, and I would be happy to be that person. Have a good day. Thank you.
What a beautiful way to go into a week of giving thanks. Thank you so much, Mrs. Lemire. Faculty, have a good holiday.